Indianapolis Colts quarterback Daniel Jones is playing through a fibula injury, and today we're going to go over everything that we know so far. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Colts. I am Jake Arthur, the Indianapolis Colts beat writer for Roundtable Sports. And thank you for making Locked On Colts your first listen of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if that bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets across the entire app. Again, welcome to the show, everybody. Today, we are designating this whole thing not only to Daniel Jones, but the Daniel Jones fibula injury. So obviously, this thing is 2 weeks old. The information is kind of developing a little bit. This week, it came out through a report that it is, in fact, a fractured fibula. And since then, I kind of feel like this whole thing has taken on a life of its own. So as a member of the Colts media, a beat writer that covers the team, it's probably my responsibility to go out and just kind of lay this whole thing out and just, whether you wind up concerned or not, I just want to give you everything I think that needs to be laid out in this whole thing. So be kind of an abridged episode, but, we'll lead you into Sunday's game against the Texans with whatever information you need to know. And of course, if you guys have any questions or anything, hit me up on social media. I'd be happy to talk about it. So let's just kind of go over the timeline here. So last Thursday, November 20th, Daniel Jones popped up on the injury report as limited with what was initially considered a calf injury. Now, I was watching that practice, and I actually saw, what transpired. It didn't really seem like a big deal at all. During the early portion of practice that the media is able to watch, Jones went over to the side and spoke with a trainer. And just was pointing at his lower leg. They were talking about it for a few minutes. I don't even think the trainer, they didn't even need, he didn't investigate it really or anything. I think they were just discussing it. And it looked like Jones was just describing whatever was going on. They were talking for a few minutes before Jones then jogged back over to the rest of the group with the quarterbacks. He just missed a handful of reps of quarterbacks handing off to running backs. He didn't really miss any of the team stuff. To my understanding, that was the extent of what he missed that day. So he was listed as limited that last Thursday. And then, unfortunately, I can't confirm which leg. When I was watching, I feel like it was the left one. But again, I was not paying close enough attention to determine for sure. The Twitter doctors think it's the right leg. When I watch again at practice, I think it's left. So the team won't discuss it. So we'll just leave it to be determined. It is one of his lower legs. The next day, after a full evaluation, the Colts, got him in after practice, looked everything over. It was actually determined to be a fibula injury. Shane Steichen, when he announced that to us that Friday, he was asked immediately if it was fractured, and he declined to give specifics on that. Now I know the Colts, their reputation with injury reporting and stuff, some fans don't love it. It's shaky, whatever. So on Thursday, when it was considered a calf, they have to get something out there to the league on the injury report before things are required to be in at 4 p.m. So initially, before they were able to do a full evaluation, that's what it looked like. Afterward, when they could do everything, they found it to be a fibula. So really, no big deal there. Jones practiced in full that Friday. And then Steichen continued when we spoke about it. That was the first time that Friday was the first time we'd really spoken to him since the injury came up. He said it was no big deal. Jones was going to be good to go. It was just something that popped up that Thursday, and he wanted to, mention it to the trainers, but that he'd be fine for the game. There would be no concerns with how they'd call the game, yada, yada. So fast forward, Jones plays Sunday against the Chiefs. I thought he actually looked really, really good through the first three quarters. The Colts in the fourth quarter, obviously when things fell apart, they didn't really feel great. even though they had that lead, running the ball because of what the Chiefs were doing. There was some times where, a linebacker got free through the line. Chris Jones was playing out of his mind. So they just kind of wanted to complete some simple passes to sustain their drives. That ultimately obviously did not work. We've talked ad nauseum about the factor the run game did or didn't play there in the fourth quarter. That led to 4 consecutive 3-and-outs to close out the game, allowing the Chiefs to come back and then ultimately win it in overtime. Jones pretty obviously looked a bit limited in the game. There were a couple times he went and ran the ball, had 14 yards, I think, had a couple first downs. So when he did go and run, it was effective. He just kind of jogged nonchalantly on a 3rd and 1 and picked up like 4 yards there. And I don't know how much of that one was the leg. Like, I think a lot of people saw that and were like, oh my God, he can't move. I think he just so easily had the first down that he didn't need to run full bore. Now, he normally does. He's a very high effort guy, so he normally does run full speed. He had another first down that he picked up later in the game where he had that really awkward slide at the end. I think that made it seem as if he was obviously a tad limited from the game. So yeah, throughout that first week of the injury, he's not on the injury report Wednesday. He pops up limited on Thursday. That's when everything came up. On Friday, he's full. Sunday, he plays. When he's asked about it, he doesn't really give a timeline. That's last week after the game and this week. He said he gave a little more information about it this week on Wednesday. He said it's just, he made it seem like it was something that maybe had carried over, but no one has said if it came from the Falcons game or what. But the way Jones spoke about it with his kind of vague verbiage made it seem like maybe Thursday wasn't the first time he noticed it. But maybe that last Thursday was the first time it was enough for him to say anything. So I don't want to put anything in any words in people's mouths, but just kind of reading the tea leaves. That's what it seemed like. So again, he goes into Sunday, he plays. As a passer, he doesn't look incredibly limited. As a runner, obviously he did. Now, in the fourth quarter, when it's basically all passing for the Colts, the Chiefs brought the house. They kept pressuring Jones. The protection wasn't necessarily there. The timing wasn't there. And we may be able to attribute some of his limited mobility to how poorly things went. But again, the Chiefs front was really getting after the Colts and winning. So it could have looked like that in any way you shake it down. So coming up, the injury develops. But like the information about the injury develops. We talked to Shane Steichen and Daniel Jones more. The report from Ian Rapoport comes out about the fractured fibula. And, again, like I said, things kind of take on a life of their own a little bit. So we're going to go over that in just a moment. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who's going to score next to if there is a fourth quarter comeback coming down the pipe. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, welcome back, everydayers. So thank you for making Locked On Colts your first listen of the day. But more importantly, thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network out there. All right, so we're recapping this Daniel Jones injury. Week 1 of it, limited in practice Thursday, full participant Friday. He plays Sunday. His mobility looks a little bit compromised out there. So let's fast forward to this week. Shane Steichen is asked if this injury is something that the Colts will need to maintain throughout the season. I asked that last week. Stephen Holder asked that this week. And Steichen basically said, Jones is fine. He's practicing. He's playing. It's all good. The Colts do believe that this is something that will actually get better as the season goes along, though, and that he's not at risk for greater injury. They wouldn't put him out there if they did think they were kind of, sending him out there to the Sharks, because sometimes you do have to protect players from themselves. That's not really what they're dealing with here. It's more of a pain tolerance thing. If you want to think of it this way, like Michael Pittman Jr. last year played through his back injury, and there wasn't like great risk for like worsening the injury. It was just how much he could tolerate. Now it sounds really bad because Pittman, in all technicalities, had a broken back that he was playing through. So Jones they're not really risking him suffering further injury with this by putting him out there. It's just really how much he can deal with. And I think he looks like he's in probably better condition than Pittman was with that compromised back last year. So if you want to liken it to something, you could probably draw a line there. So we go to this week when the week of practice begins. Jones is listed as limited for Wednesday. Now the Colts held a walkthrough on Wednesday just because we're getting later in the season now, and Shane Steichen usually likes to designate a day for walkthroughs so that they're kind of, lessening the load on these guys physically. But the estimated practice report for Jones on Wednesday is that he was limited. So you go to this Thursday, Thanksgiving, and Ian Rapoport comes out with a report that it is an indeed fractured fibula for Jones, which I think that is when people's perception of this started to evolve a little bit. Kind of made it seem as if there was a setback or that the injury got worse or anything. That's not the case. It's the same injury. There's more information about it. So yeah, they're like, just knowing that it's a fractured fibula. Yeah, the guy's tough and he's playing through it, but like nothing worse happened with it. Again, we just know more about it. Now with Rapoport's report, he said, Jones was listed as a full participant on Thursday and that he looked good according to the information he was giving. So we can't like fully refute this. I guess, the full participation has to be considered a fact, but the he looked good part of it is a little subjective. So let's go over it real quick. Jones can technically be listed as a full participant for Thursday if he didn't miss any of the predetermined amount of reps he was supposed to get. Because I wasn't there Thursday. Obviously, it was Thanksgiving. We weren't all there. But James Boyd and Nathan Brown, they were both there. And they observed that Jones did miss some reps during the individual period when it's like just quarterbacks working with themselves or quarterbacks working with running backs and things. Jones wasn't necessarily involved in all that. It was really Riley Leonard and Brett Rippon. But again, the media only gets to see the early portion of practice. So when it comes down to it, I don't think that Jones really missed any of the teamwork he was supposed to participate in. So he was technically listed as a full participant and can be listed as such. Now, the he looked good portion of it, I'm going to have to push back on that one a little bit. So James Boyd, as I mentioned at the top, he was there and watched practice. He did post some video of Jones taking some dropbacks and throwing during routes on air. I don't think Jones looked good. I don't think many people in that instance thought that Jones looked really good there. It looked like he was, favoring the injury a bit and then moving gingerly during his dropbacks. I think the most he has favored that injury in the week plus now that we've known that he's had it. So that was Thursday. Moving forward to Friday, I'm back on site Friday, so I get to see all this in person at this point. Jones practiced in full on Friday. I didn't notice him miss any reps, so I think he literally did get like the full lay of the land on practice reps on Friday. I don't think he looked 100%, but I don't think he looked as bad as those videos showed on Thursday either. Like, he clearly looked like someone who was injured and favoring himself Thursday. He looked, not necessarily maybe his normal explosive self Friday, but I didn't think it looked all that bad. Now, during warm-ups when they're, getting loose and doing calisthenics and stretching and stuff, during that warm-up circuit, the guys kind of run laterally and they do kind of like a sideways shuffle thing. And Jones didn't do that. When everyone else was like doing the sideways shuffle and like running side to side laterally, Jones just kept it moving forward. So for that, his lateral movement might be compromised a little bit with this injury, which I guess is to be expected. So yeah, afterwards, the Colts come out, they're confident that Jones can execute whatever they need to in the playbook. I don't think their play calling with Shane Steichen is really greatly limited. Now, just to keep it real and be realistic, they're not going to go out there and treat him like Michael Vick and have him running all this stuff. But they didn't they do a lot of RPOs and stuff, but they didn't have specifically a lot of designed runs for Jones individually. You know what I mean? So things we noticed, Zach and I have discussed on this show last week and even this week after we've seen the game, they didn't run him on third and short or anything, third and fourth and short. His QB sneaks are often very effective, but they haven't been pulling on that, which is probably going to stay the case if I had to guess, because that requires a lot of drive on those lower legs. There's a lot that can happen in those piles. Bodies are flying around everywhere. You can get rolled up on. So it's probably in the Colts' best interest not to really use Jones on sneaks, which again is unfortunate because he's been very, very effective doing so. But yeah, until he's even better, again, they feel he's going to continue to improve throughout the year. Until he gets to that point, I would imagine they're not going to do that a whole lot. As far as other options for the Colts, we've been asked about Anthony Richardson a lot. He is not ready to return. I know we don't see eye injuries and stuff commonly, but I can't stress enough how serious that eye injury was for Richardson. He broke a bone in his face around his eye, and that takes a lot of time to heal and get better. And there's not much you can do for it except for rest. So Richardson on IR is not ready to return yet. The Colts, I don't think, intend on calling up Brett Rippon from the practice squad for this game because they don't feel like they need that security blanket of an extra quarterback there behind Jones and Riley Leonard. So they feel good and secure in this. And again, Jones is injured, but his risk of injury is not greater than it was before, if that makes sense. So they don't feel by having him out there that they need to have this extra security layer with another quarterback in Brett Rippon. I did ask this week if, Riley Leonard has gotten any extra work the last couple weeks with Jones' injury. And Shane Steichen did say that Leonard has been getting a lot more of the scout team looks, and he's maybe beefed up a little bit there, and he's been, getting better in that department. I don't think they're intentionally leaning into him to get him ready in case Jones is getting injured, but I think they're being wise in the event that if something does happen to Jones, they need to have Leonard be ready, essentially. Because Leonard's the direct backup now with Richardson out still on IR, and Rippon is still on the practice squad and has yet to be called up for any game. So it's on Leonard if Jones goes down. So that's pretty much all I know, guys. It may not be a ton specifically, but the Colts are not trying to give up a ton specifically about this. I just, again, like I mentioned at the top, I felt like since people found out it's a fracture, it's kind of evolved into something different as far as the perception of what this injury is and what it means. I don't think much changes there. So I just wanted to kind of get ahead of it and, just talk about what I know. Now, this may all he could come out against Houston and just looks like he's moving like an old man and he gets sacked 10 times. And then this all is for naught. But I just want to let you guys know what I think as someone who is there all the time and is observing things and talks to people. So that's all I got for you today. I'm going to try and get more info out for you guys, not just on Jones, but, you guys had been sending in your questions. So we want to do more Q&A before the game goes out, 1:00 p.m. Eastern, Colts and Texans. Of course, I'll be on site and we'll have more for you after the game. Thank you guys for making Locked On Colts your first listen of the day. The NFL season is in full swing, so for your next listen after us, get a double dose of the Locked On NFL podcast. Tyler Madman Rowland gives you a shot of espresso to start your football day, while Tony Wiggins takes you into the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns to end your day. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you guys want to become a Locked On Colts insider and chat with us directly and get the inside scoop on everything involving the Colts, then please follow the link in our show notes. If you don't already, follow at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks2 on Twitter. We're also on TikTok and Instagram. Also, please subscribe on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. And, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that. We would love your 5-star ratings. Now the show's about to be over. If you wouldn't mind going ahead and giving us a high rating and a review, that would be awesome for us. It helps us move up the charts. With that, you guys have a great day. Have a great weekend. And we will see you guys after the game for the squad show.